each other at the M garden party.
Yeah.
So I was basically documenting that whole event. So every piece that you saw from there, apart from the photography, which was £5, and I think Nathan as well, that was all me. So like the prep for the party, we wanted to do kind of like a behind the scenes of how it all came together. And then we did a whole kind of documentation of the event.
It was a really cool event.
It was fun.
And
Had
like
a lot
the food was excellent.
Yeah. So much food.
The vibe was good. I got out of there I left pretty early. What time did you stay until?
Late. I think I was there, I think closing time was 11,
okay,
if I'm not mistaken, and I was there until closing time.
It was just starting to turn up when I left. I left at 8:30, and I could see the vibes were getting stronger, if you will.
Yeah,
I'm like,
so good.
I got to get up early tomorrow. I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
That's good. What's it like working with them? You like working with them?
I love them. The team's awesome. And they've really kind of allowed me to kind of take the reins and give them ideas and say, why don't we try this? And, what if we did something a little bit more entertaining, or what if we did a series? So every idea that I have, Justin's amazing. He's super creative.
He's very creative.
He's amazing. So I can just kind of run with an idea, tell him about it, and he'd be like, yeah, that's great. Let's try that.
Or he might be like, let's try that. What about this? And you'd be like, oh, that's
totally.
A really good
He's
idea.
a great person to brainstorm with.
Yeah. It was funny because we were playing golf together a couple of weeks ago, him and Richard. And he even said himself, he's like, honestly, I consider myself more of a CMO than anything else, the chief marketing officer than anything.
Absolutely.
He's like, that's where my strength is. He's like, I wouldn't be surprised one day if, for the better of the company, that someone else would come and actually run the operations, and I could just do the CMO stuff.
For sure.
And that's a sign of a good leader too, recognizing their strengths.
For sure.
And kind of going like, he kind of said, I think someone could probably run this better than I can. And I'm not trying to insult him. I think he's doing a great job. And even more so, I think he's surrounded himself with a great team. Yeah.
I think he knows where his strengths are, and then he has hired out those people that are going to help him grow the company.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you were saying there, you don't drink?
No.
Good for you.
Yeah, I think it's now been 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
Did you have a problem?
No. Originally it started with, I wanted to
we're getting personal.
No, it's fine. No, originally it started because I wanted to heal things in my gut. So I was like, hey, I'll go off of alcohol for a little bit. And then I became kind of sober curious. I was like, what would it be like if I didn't have alcohol for X amount of time?
Yeah.
And then I got to 3 months, and then 6 months. And then someone asked me, so how long are you going to do this sober thing?
Yeah.
And it's been 2 years. So
good for you.
Yeah. I never really enjoyed it. It was never something that I liked.
So it was easy for you.
So yeah, I never really missed it.
I'm at 2 months now, just shy of 2 months.
How's that going?
Great.
Yeah.
Everything's great. You come in, you're sharp, your thoughts, like my thoughts come through easier. Like even just for an example, like running a podcast, just everything comes quicker. I don't have a foggy brain. And even having, let's say, for example, 2 or 3 pints the night before, 3 pints are going to feel it. Even 2 pints, you'll feel it. For me, like my crutch was beer. I love beer. I could like wine, spirits, like whatever. A nice cold beer coming out of a tap. I'm like, oof, that looks crispy.
Yeah.
So that's the part. But no, 2 months is going fantastic. No one needs to be lectured on the benefits of not drinking.
For sure.
And interestingly enough, I would say I still have kind of like a gut issue too. So I want to ask you a question about that because I'm trying to find some research.
And there's so much of it.
Yeah. Like, what are you doing? I'm taking the BioK yogurt. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
Okay. I would assume your gut's probably better now.
It is a lot better.
Okay.
I've tried so many different types of, I'll call them diets.
Yeah.
Right now I'm more on like a protein-based diet.
Okay.
So
less carbs.
Yeah, way less carbs. So me and my partner were like, you know what, let's just try like the carnivore diet. And that lasted a small chunk of time before I was like, I miss fruit and I miss, a bunch of other things. So right now we're kind of in like a whole foods era.
Okay.
And that feels really good.
So just anything
less sugar, less.
No processed food, pretty much.
Take away the processed food.
Yeah.
For him, it's more salty. For me, it's sweet. And we're in summer, so, going to Dairy Queen and the ice cream, I'm always super excited. But I mean, when I have it, my body can tell me that you're not, like, this is not the way that you should be eating.
Yeah.
But I have noticed that when I do stay clean for, let's say, a week, and then on the weekend I'm like, oh, let's go get ice cream, I actually feel really good. So it's kind of the 80-20 situation that helps.
Ice cream is so good.
It's so good. I just love a good Blizzard.
Oh my God. Like, ice cream for me, it's Wild Willie's that.
I haven't had a Wild Willie's in ages.
Oh my God.
It's so good.
I live close by to Wild Willie's. And so especially if I've been good, which I have been lately. So I've been exercising. I've been eating pretty well. I've been sleeping better because, like, I'm not drinking. But my sweet tooth is back. And
full force.
It's bad. But the way I justify it, I'm like, you know what? You didn't have a beer today. So I go have an ice cream. And I'm just like there, like I've already exercised. I've done all the work. I've had a productive day.
We're justifying here.
Yeah. I'm just like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to go have an ice cream.
Yeah.
And I'll have it there. And I always get the same thing. I get they're small ice cream. It's not small. And I get it with
smallish.
Oreo. And I absolutely devour it. And I usually don't feel guilty. Sometimes I feel guilty.
I don't think we should feel guilty. I think it becomes a problem if we're constantly doing it, because then our body slows down. We get the brain fog. We don't feel great.
Yeah.
But then if we kind of follow that 80-20 situation, and then when we're having a craving, we go and get the ice cream.
Yeah.
I feel like it just balances out. You know, you're not driving yourself crazy and saying, I can't have that. I can't have that. Yeah. So I think it's good.
Because then I find that's also too, when you start thinking like that, that's when people binge. Because it's like, if you're constantly like, okay, I'm not doing it. It's kind of like it's like temptation. It's like an elastic band. Eventually, if you keep tempting yourself, I mean, eventually it's going to snap.
Yeah.
That's at least the way I because I used to be like that when I was younger. I would go on these crazy diets. I would try and eat, and successfully as well, I wouldn't eat sugar, like 0 sugar. And people are like, oh, so you're not eating sweets. No. I'm talking like 0 sugar.
That's
like
really hard.
It's hard. And so your body starts going through withdrawals. You get like a little bit cranky and stuff like that. And then I would crack on like a Friday or a Saturday. And I remember, this is when I was like 16. And I would just eat and eat and eat and eat and eat. Like,
once you start, it's really hard to stop.
Yeah.
So it's better to just have like little things here and there over time. And then
moderation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the key to success. Well, it's kind of like too, it's like I find, this is a complete tangent, but like people that live the longest, it's never like a secret. Like a lot of times it's often, there's like one of my dad's buddies, his father is 100. He still cuts his grass, like he's still healthy. He has 2 scotches every single day. But that's the type of person that if he's at a party, he's still having 2 scotches. If it's during the day, he still has 2 scotches. Like, he never has more, he never has less. And usually I find that's a reflection of their life as well. And they're just like a moderate person. They never do anything to excess. And it's just healthy to live that way. I wish I was more, I'm working on that. I'm more of a person that takes things to the extreme.
Yeah, I think it's whatever works for you.
Yeah.
Whatever makes you happy. And for him, if it's cutting grass and, you know, doing the things that make him feel really good. Yeah. I mean, there's also the mental aspect.
Yeah.
So if he feels great mentally, he'll live longer.
Yeah, exactly. And like whenever they go see doctors, like it doesn't matter, a doctor, well, any smart doctor at least, if you're 100 years old, still healthy, the doctor's going to look at you and go, well, whatever you're doing, just keep doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but okay, so let's dive into what it is that you do, Mel.
Okay.
Talk to us about Mel, the content creator / videographer / influencer / whatever you define yourself as with regards to your professional career.
So
or who you as a person.
So if I can kind of encompass all the things I do, it's more, I really love making things beautiful. So by beautiful, you can also say aesthetically pleasing, if you will. I just love creating, whether it's photos, whether it's reels, whether it's documenting certain moments. Like, I've put myself in situations where I've been able to photograph weddings or maternities or just family shoots, and I just love all of it. I love being able to capture moments. I love documenting moments. I love being able to go through my camera roll and see all of these beautiful memories I've taken in the last 10 years. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I do. I create content and I document moments.
And why did you get started with this? Did it kind of just with the natural evolution of the smartphone, start taking better and better photos? Instagram got more and more popular. You were taking photos and people were, I guess, liking the content. And you're like, hey, I enjoy doing this. I have something here. I'm going to keep doing it.
I feel like I've had a real evolution in how I started. So I believe when I kind of got into this was more 2016.
Okay.
So I can't remember when Instagram actually came out, but it was...
I want to say 2000. Can you fact check that? Yeah, I want to say 2010, 2009.
I think that's pretty accurate. So Instagram was still pretty new when I had kind of...
When? 2010. Okay.
So when I had first kind of started posting on Instagram, it was really just for fun. I mean, if I scroll back to whenever I first posted, it was anyone can say the same. Yeah. They have random photos and terrible filters and all those things.
So bad.
Terrible. And so I was just posting for fun at the beginning, and then a friend of mine had really gotten into influencing. Okay. And she was kind of that first visual of what this new era of content. And I remember asking her, what are you doing? And she says, well, I post these photos and I work with brands, and brands pay me to post about them.
This is in 2016?
Yeah,
roughly.
Around that time.
Okay.
And I said, that's so interesting. And then I remember I had done my first content trip with my cousin. She had gotten into more of brand content. So companies had paid her to basically photograph the brand stuff and then send it back to them, and then they would use it for web and emails and whatever they wanted to use it for. And so that was kind of another I guess example, or another inspiration for me, if you will. And I was like, well, this is also really cool. I could really see myself kind of working with brands and creating these cool pieces of content to promote them. And so I think that was around 2017, 2018. And so I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to Bali soon. What if I take this trip as kind of the first real serious moment for me to create content? And so me and my best friend Lisa had gone to Bali, and actually Tracy is my cousin as well. And we went around Bali. We took all these beautiful pictures. We were posting every day, and all of a sudden my following grew exponentially. It was like Bali was the top spot to take content, and it still kind of is. And all of a sudden I started getting emails from brands. Hey, we want to send you some things for free, and we want to work with you and whatnot. And so that was kind of this introduction.
What type of brands?
Could have been anything, from bags, suitcases, clothing, accessories, sunglasses, anything. And then I think maybe a year after that, I got my first paid travel job. And so they contacted me and said, hey, we love what you do. We love what you're posting. We have this campaign coming up. We have all these influencers coming, and we want you to be a part of it. And I said, okay, that's great. So tell me what's involved. And so she said, you have to create, a certain amount of assets, and we'll fly you out, and we'll also pay you on top of that. And I'm like, I've hit the jackpot of jobs. I am so excited. And so that was kind of the beginning of that part of my journey, where I started working more with hotels, and then tourism boards started reaching out. And I did that travel part of it for, I would say, a good two to 3 years. Okay. Maybe even 4. But then fast forward to just before COVID, and I really started to feel burnt out. I was like, I'm really feeling it. I'm gone every 2 to 4 weeks. I feel like I come home, I can take a breath, and then I have to leave again.
I feel like a nomad.
But yeah, just living out of a suitcase. Yeah. And it was really, like all things, new and exciting, and, you're super pumped to be back at the airport and new destination. But every trip I was doing, it wasn't a vacation. It was you go, you land, you immediately start shooting, and you shoot all until the evening basically. And then you edit until you pass out. I remember I have videos of Lisa and I kind of sitting in bed and we're like typing and she's passing out on her phone. And that was what it was at the time. And so, yeah, we kind of got to COVID and I was actually really excited. Like the first word I had heard of, okay, you know, this virus thing, it's getting pretty serious. They're talking about a lockdown. And I'm like, a lockdown? Okay. And when we got the stay-at-home order inside, I was like, I know this is weird to say, but I'm kind of excited. I'm kind of excited that I have to be home. And it was my first real like calm moment. Huh. And I think that was kind of my indication of, Mel, you're really burnt out. You really need to kind of regroup here and figure out if this is how you want to continue running your business. And then I took Em on as a client. And
during COVID?
Yeah.
Okay. And
for me, that was a new type of work. So they wanted to take me on a consulting basis to talk about content and how they could improve and certain things that they could change. And I was kind of excited because I said, well, that's great. I can kind of have my thing at home. This is really cool. I can build like my little community here. Mm-hmm. And I had a moment of feeling super lost. I was like, wow, I'm really pivoting here. Mm-hmm. And that was really scary for a bit of time. But now fast forward those 3 to 4 years, I've now built a little client base.
Network.
Yeah, a little network.
Yeah.
Of people who are really wanting to create content with me. They're like, I'm lost, please help me. I'm willing to kind of really collaborate. It's not something I just want to pass off to you. But yeah, I really want to make sure that I'm posting on social and I want to show up. And so those are the people that I'm working with now.
Can you talk to us a little bit about, because like I have a little bit of experience with regards to this, nowhere near to your extent, but filming content, I think a lot of why it's so difficult that a lot of brands, A, struggle with, and B, don't realize how much work it actually is to produce content. So I'll just give you an example for myself. Like, so I'm here still doing all the day-to-day stuff, mm-hmm. and then filming content. A lot of times I just don't have the energy to do it, which is why because this was probably 2 years ago, I'm like, okay, if you're a brand, aka if you're a business, you have to have video content today. And my theory, and I still believe it's true, filming a podcast and getting the clips is going to be way easier as opposed to having a vlog style. Vlog style is so hard. Like, there's only so many things you can do to make it interesting. And so people, like, honestly, I tip my hat off to them. Guys like Logan Paul, mm-hmm. Like, he's not doing vlogs so much anymore, but when they were popping off on YouTube with the vlogs, like, that's really hard to do.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of work. So it's like, can you talk to us just about how much work it actually is to be an influencer? It's not only the editing, it's like producing content all the time, but it's like, it just occupies so much mental real estate because you can't even, or correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like some content creators would have a tough time living in the present because it's just like, okay, I have to film this now. So as opposed to just enjoying your surroundings, you're like, okay, that looks really nice because you're thinking about, oh, I have to do this for this brand.
Yeah. I think that was probably my number one question years ago when I was traveling all the time was, how do you enjoy these places and do your job?
Can you?
And you can.
Okay.
But you have to set boundaries with yourself for it.
Like have specific days. Like today I'm not doing anything. Tomorrow's a content day.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. So when I was doing whether it was with a tourism board or for a hotel, they would say, okay, we need 20 photos and let's say like 2 or 3 reels. Mm-hmm. So I would say, okay, well, it's brightest at this time, from noon to whatever. I don't necessarily want that type of light for the pictures that I want.
Jeez,
so
scientific.
Lighting is everything for photos and content. So okay. I would say,
Take notes, Shep.
I would say, okay, let's say we get in on a Monday. So Monday we'll do a sunrise and a sunset, and everything in between we'll just
enjoy.
We'll walk around. We'll see what other shooting spots we want to get. but we'll be there. We'll be present.
Yeah.
And then the next day, maybe it's not sunrise, but it's more noon and like kind of midday, because midday is great for droning. So you do midday and then maybe a sunset, but then you still have that work at night. Like if you have to be editing these photos, sending them to the brand, also posting at the same time. So you really have to pace yourself with the work that's expected of you. And you only have sometimes 3 to 4 days to do it. So they're like...
They give you deadlines?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which I guess kind of makes sense, because if they're like, hey, I'm paying for your vacation, you're
coming here for business.
Yeah, I want the content.
Yeah. I mean, how much work it is to create content is, I think, all relative. I mean, I can talk about vlog style stuff. I mean, I agree with you. It is a lot of work. And I do also agree with what you're saying. If you're doing a podcast and you're giving people kind of educational, informative information, it's a lot easier to hop on this for an hour and then chop it up to, 10 different clips and you're good to go.
Yes, like that's pretty much like, I'll give our secret sauce, and some brands, some companies want to do this. It's like, so yeah, I'll just go back to, I'll repeat myself. I apologize for that. But I made the realization we need to have video content. Mm-hmm. If we want to be competing in the space,
Absolutely.
It's definitely working. You have to have video content. You can't have just photos today. And also, too, you have to be really careful if you're a company running paid ads, because they're going to be like, oh my God, look at all the impressions. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, you're paying.
Yeah.
So if you stop putting money behind that, chances are you're not going to get the organic reach at all.
Correct.
So we've actually like reverse engineered this, and this is a Gary Vee tip. The algorithm's so good today, take a clip that did really well organically and put ad dollars behind that, because you already know it's a good piece of content for whatever reason. So, yeah, I forgot where I was going with this, but it's also too with the podcast, it's a lot less stressful. I can be present. And then what we do is we do this, Shem takes like the timestamps, and then we outsource it to an editor, because the editing's actually
it's a lot.
In my experience, you're an editor. I don't know how to edit, but it's like more than the actual filming of the content. My brother's a YouTuber, and he said the same thing. So a lot of creators, I think, try or aspire to get to a point where they're making enough money and they can outsource the editing. But then you have other issues, because like you didn't edit this the way I wanted you to edit it, or
I mean, that all takes time, right? So first you start kind of solo, and then you say, okay, I've now perfected the content that I want to create, and I'm now making enough money to come in for me to pay somebody to help me where I'm spending a lot of my time. Mm-hmm. So then you would go and hire your editor. Mm-hmm. And yes, your editor, it may take quite a while to kind of perfect the way that content looks. But in the long run, if you find somebody who can eventually get to kind of your secret sauce of creating content, it's saving you a ton of time. Mm-hmm. So that now gives you more time to create more content or to actually grow your business instead of being in it all the time.
How big of an editing team for, well, I'll take the extreme example, like a Mr. Beast. How big is his editing team?
I mean,
10 people?
They have, I don't know, they have so many different channels in multiple different languages. I mean, I would say at minimum, it has to be 10 people, if not more than that.
Because that's a company.
Yeah. He's a conglomerate. He is massive. It's huge. Like the amount of businesses he has, the amount of social accounts he's running, or I would say like him and his team. Yeah. But yeah, it's huge.
There was a guy, and the reason I brought up Mr. Beast, there was a guy, so I ran into him, I forget his name, but I ran into him at the Brass in Pointe Claire, and we were talking about TikTok. And then, so he had that background. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, where do you work, or where did you used to work? And he goes, I actually used to work for Mr. Beast. He was an editor for Mr. Beast. I'm like, what the hell was that like? And no, I wasn't surprised. He's like, pretty stressful, hard deadlines. I think he said he was making $80,000 a year US, which for an editor is like, that's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And, but yeah, just what I found super cool was the amount of like thought and the amount of work that actually goes into creating the content for Mr. Beast. And just kind of, we'll take it back to like the original point. I don't think people understand how difficult it is to A, create content, and B, even more importantly, to create content that people want to watch. Because the good content creators, they analyze the content that they produce, and they're constantly tweaking what it is that they're creating. And then on top of that, you have the algorithm that keeps changing. Mm-hmm. So, and we can get into that now. Like, how do you keep up with an ever-changing algorithm? Like, I'm sure you've experienced this before. Like, you think, oh my God, this is going to slap, and nothing happens.
Yeah.
Or you have a piece of content, like, I don't think that's going to hit, and it blows up.
Yeah.
So, like, how do you, I know you can't really give, or maybe you can, I don't give like a direct answer, but how do you adjust and how do you adapt to an ever-changing algorithm on every single platform? Because each platform also has a different algorithm. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like we have some videos out on TikTok. You'll get like 20,000 views. That's a lot for us. It's not a lot for you, I'm sure. But it's like 20,000 views. That's for us. Like, damn, that's a good video.
That's a great video.
The exact same, identical, same editing, same everything. On Instagram, for example, will get 500 views. Mm-hmm. I don't understand it.
I do understand that there is a huge difference between content that shows up on TikTok versus shows up on Instagram. I couldn't tell you exactly why, because everyone kind of has the same question. They're like, I post one thing on TikTok and it goes viral, and then I post it on Instagram and it flops. In terms of keeping up with the algorithm, I don't think that that's a good. I don't enjoy putting time into understanding all the changes. I like just making sure that my content feels, one, true to me, that it's either educational, inspirational, or entertaining, because those are the three categories that would perform best.
So you're constantly thinking about yourself and obviously your audience. What's my audience gonna
Yeah,
like?
I want to make sure that whatever I'm posting is serving my audience in some way. And if it's not, because think about it, you've got the people that follow you, you want them to stick around for as long as possible. But if you're just posting content that is maybe not really serving them anymore, then they're going to leave. Mm-hmm. So I think for me, it's more about the quality of your content as opposed to what's going to serve the algorithm. Because then if you're constantly serving an algorithm, then you're gonna stray so far from yourself and what you actually want to be posting that it's not gonna be fun anymore.
Do most content creators burn out eventually?
Yes. I feel like they do burn out at least once for them to kind of understand. Like, you have to get to that point to understand, okay, I need, like, things need to change here. Yep. And then they do change, and then they may burn out again at some other point, but then they'll know why they did. Does that make sense?
Yes. Here's a question, and this just popped into my head. And this is a question I asked a lot of people, and I have my opinion on this. What's your relationship like with Instagram? And this is not like, it could be like a funny question, or it could be like because I honestly...
I could go either way.
Yeah, because it's like sometimes people laugh, but sometimes the reason I asked this question just popped into my head. So I was with one of my friends. I guess he's, call him a micro-influencer. So is his girlfriend. And she's like, I hate this thing. She hates it. And so he got a car, and the dealership that gave him the car was like, okay, well, we're going to give you the car, but you need to post. And she was just talking about, she goes, I felt like such an idiot because I have to make this post for the brand that gave us the car. We're off on the side of the road. We're taking photos. And she's like, I feel so stupid and embarrassed doing this, but I have to do it for the brand.
Yeah.
And I don't know, when people start talking like that, I think it's just a matter of time before they completely get off the platform. And I don't like being on the platform because I find it takes me away from living in the present. So I could be at a chalet, I could be somewhere on vacation, and then I go on the stories and I go, oh, I want to be there. Oh, that looks great. And it just takes away from enjoying what's in the present. So just back to the question, because I'm sure you're on Instagram a lot. Like, what's your relationship like with Instagram?
It's a lot better than what it used to be. That's for sure.
What did it used to be like?
Really unhealthy. A lot of comparison. I mean, exactly what you just said. You know, you're kind of going through stories or posts and saying, oh, you know, I wish I was there doing this thing, or I wish I was making this amount of money, or I wish I could buy a house and live here, XYZ. I mean, the list goes on, just because it's mirroring all the things that, you know, you wish you had, that you think are going to make you happy. Now, what you had just said about the girl who was on the side of the road taking pictures for the brand and whatnot, I find when I felt most like that was when I felt least like myself. Like I had strayed so far, again, like I was saying, in the opposite direction.
You were like a slave to the platform.
I was so misaligned with where I wanted to go with the platform. And I think that's why and I wish I could say that in capital letters, but that's why it's important to know why you're posting on the platform. Like, why are you showing up? What is the purpose of showing up on the platform? And it could just be, I just want to share my life. Like, there are a lot of vloggers that I love following on a day-to-day basis, just because I watch their stuff and I'm like, oh, this really just feels like a normal day for a normal person. And this makes me feel really good. And I like that. Some people are super talented with just sharing their day-to-day, and that's awesome. Other people, I mean, could just be entertaining content. They're like, I just love creating content with my husband. It's super funny. It brings us closer together, and it's awesome. They all have really positive things to say about the platform because their content is very much aligned with what they want to do.
Do you think it's like that forever? Because like I feel like it's
that you're always aligned. You mean?
No, I didn't phrase that question properly. I feel like it's. Let me explain. I feel like it starts off. It's like being in a relationship for the first year. So it's like really easy the first year. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you love each other. It's great. It's fantastic. And then after the year, it's like you either you're compatible with the person or you're not. And it takes work to stay with your significant other. This is just the reality of life and relationships and stuff. Like, anyone who's been married for 30 years, they've had their ups, they've had their downs. Yeah. And it takes work. So I feel like just being on a platform at the beginning, it might be all fun and stuff, but then there are pressures associated with it. So as soon as the brand deals start getting involved, so let's say a husband and a wife duo, and at the beginning it's super fun, and then all of a sudden they have a 1 million person following or 5 million person following. Yeah. I feel like, maybe I'm wrong, I feel like that would take away some of the fun of it, because now there's the pressure to consistently create new content that's going to keep eyeballs.
I mean, there's a lot of things, right? So one, it's dangerous to kind of get into social media with your significant other, because now it's like our whole relationship kind of revolves around this now.
Well, you're working with your significant other, it's a job.
So now you got to set boundaries. Now it's like, okay, we're going to film from this time to this time. You think about it like a job. I think the best thing I thought of was, I don't have a 9 to 5, but I'd like to think that my hours are 9 to 5. So you go and create your content, you know, from this time to this time. And then you have other time that is completely off social media, where you actually spend time with your significant other, or you're just not on the platform, you're doing other things. So it's really important to just set boundaries with social media, period. I mean, I think I'm trying very hard to not touch my phone for the first hour of the day.
Oh, it's so hard.
And it is really hard. It's still really hard.
I'm sure.
But the days that I do it, I feel so good mentally, because my day doesn't start with comparison. Because the second I open my phone in the morning, first of all, you're in a different state in the morning. Like, your body is in prime time to be journaling, to be writing down your best thoughts and your dreams and all of that. So for you to pick up your phone at that time and start comparing your life to somebody else's is horrible.
Do you feel like, because whenever I do this, and I'm guilty of it way more than it should be, I literally feel anxiety as soon as I open my phone. And recently, so on Saturday with all the floods and stuff, so we've been busy, but I took it upon myself. So I got a call at 7:30 in the morning from the radio. They're like, you want to be on the radio? I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, for sure. Yeah. Why not? Like, free advertising. Then so pretty much all day Saturday I was just creating content, which is good for the business. I enjoyed it. But the next day I woke up, I'm in Tremblant, I'm in a chalet, it's beautiful, nature. The first thing I did was I woke up and I looked at the insights for all the views, and I could feel the anxiety like just wash over me.
Yeah.
And I was like addicted to the dopamine of seeing the views.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
So normal and so terrible all at the same time.
Do you do that? Like,
It's really hard not to. I mean, the numbers.
And do you look at the content? Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Do you look at the content or do you go to the numbers or both?
You mean like, do I check the content?
Your content.
Oh, yeah. So like I'll check the video that I posted and then how many views it got or how many saves. And then I'll have a moment of, can I swear on this show?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want. Shit, fuck.
Yeah, okay. No, I'll look at it and be like, oh shit, it wasn't good enough. I'm not good enough. This sucks. What a shit day. And then it just continues to manifest a shit day. So I think for me, the most important thing I've done is, and actually Mike, my partner, is amazing with this. So I'll go and post a video that I absolutely love and it doesn't do well. And then I'll message him saying, oh, my content's not performing. And he's like, but did you love creating it? And I said, yeah. And he's like, do you love what it looks like right now? And I said, yeah. And he's like, so that's it. It's all that matters. And in the end, that is all that matters, because for me anyways, the most important thing is that I'm creating. It makes me super happy. I feel alive creating content. So if I'm doing that and I'm happy, then my number one focus shouldn't be on numbers. The problem where numbers come in is when money is involved.
Yes.
So that's the biggest issue. And money is super important. You know, obviously, if you're an influencer, you're relying a lot on influencing people to sell a product or to, present brand awareness or whatever the contract is. But that contract involves money. So there is a certain expectation that it's going to perform.
And do the contracts that you sign or that you enter into, is it common for companies or people or organizations, whatever, to say, okay, we're going to pay you this much. We need X reach? Do they put targets?
I think I haven't gotten into a lot of contracts like that. I think I've had one that said we need a certain amount of views on this video. And I mean, it wasn't a whole lot, but it was just interesting to see that there were expectations on performance. I would never suggest any influencer get into contracts like that, because you're going and taking the time to go and shoot this content. It's, it's precious time, money to create it. So yeah, I mean, I think that for brands, I mean, this is like a whole other can of worms, but I have always felt that when it comes to influencers and promoting products, you should always be getting into more of a long-term contract. So a lot of my friends enter into like long-term, like 1-year contracts with a brand. And that's great, because then someone sees that you're, let's say, promoting, Air Canada, for example. And they're like, oh, okay, like that's the first point of contact I'm seeing. And then maybe a couple weeks later, you see it again and again and again. So it's like that, you have to see something 7 times in order to,
I was just about to say that. Yeah. Brand awareness.
So the same thing should be said for influencer marketing. Yeah. And a lot of these companies don't want to enter into long-term partnerships. They're like, that's really expensive. That's a really long-term commitment. So we're not there yet, but there are more and more companies that are kind of seeing that light to be like, yeah, like we get it. So like the more that your audience sees it, the more it's like a like to know trust factor, like, okay, you're constantly promoting this brand, like you must really like it.
How hard is it to actually get to like the top 1% of content creators? So it's, again, I'll just use, cause they're in my feed a lot. It's like a Logan Paul, a Jake Paul. I honestly, I really like Jake Paul. I have a lot of, I don't know what he's like as a person. I don't really want to meet him.
Logan's the one that's
the wrestler.
Okay, wait. Is he engaged?
Yes.
Or are they both engaged? I lost track.
No. So Jake Paul's well, they're technically both boxers. Jake Paul is like the younger one. And
okay, yes.
But I mean, like this guy's life, I tip my hat off to him. He seems to be in a good place, whether he is or not, who knows? But he was saying the same thing. So it kind of comes back to the same thing we were just discussing. So he was living in LA. Not only the pressure to consistently create content, but just being in that city. This is coming from him. Just being in that city with all the distractions and stuff. He's like, I wasn't happy. I was making all this money and I just wasn't happy.
Yeah.
Took up all his stuff, moved to Puerto Rico, He's training every single day. He's living a very disciplined lifestyle. I don't know. It seems like a pretty cool way to live. He's like, I don't really drink because he's training so hard. He's like, I can't.
Right.
He's taking the craft of boxing seriously. Like he's definitely training. And so back to the question I was going to ask, how difficult is it to actually get to like the 1% of content creators? These guys are in the 1%, or like, I don't know, any girl or stuff like that. Like how hard is it to actually get there? Because I feel like a lot of people, the reason I'm asking this question, a lot of kids today in school, like, I want to be a YouTuber. Because kids don't really watch TV anymore. They're on Instagram, they're on TikTok, they're on YouTube.
Yep.
And they go, well, what better way to make a life than this looks so fun. There's like, it's so easy. You've just testified to the fact that it's not nearly as easy as it looks.
Yeah, because they're getting the 5% of what it actually entails.
Got it. So it's like, so how much, like, how hard is it? How much work do these guys?
I think anyone can do it. I think anyone can get to that point. I think the challenging part is when you start to hate it and you're like, do I quit or do I keep pushing? And so the top 1% are the people that keep pushing.
Is it inevitable that you will eventually start to hate it?
There will be moments of resentment for sure, because you kind of start, it starts as a hobby and you're like, it may or may not make me money. And then it starts making you money. And with all things not all things, but a lot of the things that involve money and hobbies, you start to kind of resent it. It gets less fun. Now you're kind of forced to do it because that thing is now making you money. And then you kind of get to a point where you're either burnt out or you're tired of it and you're like, I just want to break. I just need a moment of not doing this. And I think taking those moments is great. Whether it's completely disconnecting for a week, a month, even a year. Like, there are so many YouTubers who are like, see ya. And they go off for a year and they just go enjoy their life and they come back and they're like, wow, I've really needed that.
Or it's like, I'm sure you know Jenna Marbles?
Yeah.
Was she like the first YouTube influencer?
I feel like Jenna was like one of the biggest.
OGs.
Yeah.
And what's she doing now? She's off the grid, right?
Yeah, her husband is still into, I think he's doing a lot of like Twitch streaming.
Okay.
But he's still on YouTube. For her, yeah, she's completely off. I know they got married. I saw that on social somewhere. So, yeah.
It would be so cool though to see her just make like a comeback for like 6 months.
I loved her.
Yeah,
I think
she was great.
Awesome.
Yeah. Because she would immediately, if she makes a video or a couple of videos, she's gonna get a couple million followers.
For sure. I think a lot of people were always expecting her to come back, but since she hasn't, they're kind of like, okay, maybe not. But to your question, what does it take? I think it's really consistency. And we hear that word so often, but it is really trying to find your rhythm of, it doesn't have to be every day. Right now, maybe it's 3 times a week. Maybe it's once a week even. A lot of the clients that I've started working with are like, yeah, I'm not even posting. I haven't posted in ages. And for me, it's like, okay, well, why aren't you posting? And there's like a whole bunch of reasons. I don't have the time. I'm busy with my business. I have a family. I'm a mom, whatever. But content does take time. But for me, I'm always like, just start with the minimum. Start with 1 post a week. And then once you feel like, okay, that's easy, I got this, go to 2. And then just keep building up till you're at like between 3 and 5. It doesn't have to be 5. I remember taking a call with Facebook not long ago actually, because they were reaching out to certain creators and they were like, oh, do you want to call with Meta? And I was like, yeah, sure. And so you get on the phone with like a Facebook, Instagram person, and they're like, okay, do you have any questions for me? And I'm like, yeah, I have a ton. I've made a list, in fact, and they're like,
why do I
okay,
hate your platform now?
Yeah. No, and I was like, okay, how often is a good like cadence to post?
Yeah.
And they're like, 3 times a week is actually great. And I'm like,
really?
Okay, well, you guys, like, all I hear online is you have to post every day. And it really depends on what guru you fall on, but a lot of them are like, you have to show up once or twice a day. And I'm like, once or twice a day? Like, there's no way. But for Instagram, it's like, no, like, we just want to see consistency. So if you're posting 3 times a week, it's not going to hurt you negatively to not be posting 5.
So from and I know algorithms change over time. So from the gist of that conversation, are you saying that consistency is part of the algorithm? And what I mean by that is, like, let's say, for example, I'm a business, I'm posting 3 times a week. I've been doing it for 6 months. The algorithm will reward me for doing that, assuming the content is up to par.
I think that it's definitely preferable. I think that the way that it works is it kind of gets used to you posting, and then once you kind of stop, it has to relearn what your content's about, and that takes time. So ideally you want to just keep posting sense. Even if
this makes perfect sense.
Even if it's like once or twice a week. A lot of people are like, I don't have the time to post 5 times a week. I'm like, great, don't. Post once a week. It's better to show up once a week than to show up 3 times a week and then ghost for a week or 2 and then come back.
This makes a lot of sense, and I'll talk to like, I run all the Google ads in our office, so that's really easy to run. Just like, you put keywords and you run ads, it runs in the background. But every single time we launch a new campaign, the algorithm needs to learn. It takes about 5 days for it to learn. And the results are all wonky for the first 5 days. It might be really expensive or no spend at all, and then it kind of levels out. And then over time, and it like cumulatively gets better over time. And I think also Google, I'm convinced they won't say this, I think the longer you're with them and the more consistently you spend money with them, the more they reward you. Because it's like, I can just look at like our performance right now on our ads recently. It's been it's been really good. And we're like looking at the data not too long ago. It's like, we're super happy with it. I'm convinced, because we didn't really change anything. We've just continued to run the campaigns, little tweaks here and there. But we've been running them consistently for like 9 months now. No interruptions, nothing.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, hey, thank you for your money. We're going to reward you.
Yeah.
I really think it does that.
I remember there are certain posts, like right now, the last 2 posts that I've done, they didn't perform super well. And I'm like, okay. I mean,
what's not super well for you?
I mean, below 10,000 views.
Okay.
So
got it.
For me, I love testing things out.
Okay.
I get frustrated, but I still like testing things out.
Okay.
So for me, I'm posting less because I'm working with clients more. So that's kind of where my time's gone. But it's interesting for me to kind of not post for, let's say, like 2 weeks to a month, and then come back and see what is doing well. So for me, I remember when I had gotten engaged in February and I posted that video, it actually did really well. It didn't surprise me, because with milestone moments, it typically does really well. Would it have performed better had I been consistently posting the month prior? Probably, because then my audience would have seen more of my stuff. And then when I had posted that video, it probably would have been a lot more on people's feeds at that time.
But maybe not.
Also, maybe not. You just never know.
That's the never-ending battle with these platforms.
But I think that's the main point, is that you can't keep up with the algorithm. I know a lot of people want to know like the tips and tricks and all of these things, and I can tell you all the things about hooks and how many seconds it should be and whatnot. But in the end, I think it's way more important to be posting content that, 1, makes you happy, and 2, that is valuable.
Yeah, and I can kind of relate to that, because it's like the same thing for, well, you're an Instagram person. I guess call me a Google person, because we've invested a lot of money. I love search engine optimization. So it's like, I love this. I could geek out about this for a long time.
Okay.
I won't. But Google has done a really good job with, hey, if you are producing content, so content marketing, which is essentially blogging, don't try to trick the algorithm. Just produce content that is easy to read and simple, and that will add value to the user. If you are writing content with that in the back of your mind, over time, your website will do better. And they've made that crystal clear. So it's like, don't add in keywords just for the sake of adding in keywords. Add value to the reader, make it simple for them. And I've followed that trick. Look, I'll give you a perfect example. At one point, I think Google tricked us, because they're like, oh, speed website speed matters for rankings.
Okay.
Turns out it didn't. But they let the rumor circulate, and they didn't say anything about it. Turns out it doesn't really have anything to do with rankings, but it's a better user experience.
Correct.
So they're like, you should still be doing that, because the at the core, why do you have a website? It's to have, obviously, to sell your product or service, but what makes a good website? It's a good user experience. Is it fast? Are they getting the information? Is it easy to find the information that they want? Like, can they get quotes easily? It just has to be easy to use, simple, easy to understand, fast. It's just a good user experience. It looks pretty. And so they just keep going back to the same thing. If it's a good user experience, eventually you will be rewarded for that. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, it just builds on what you're saying.
Yeah. I think for your content, which is educational,
yes,
I think those points are so key.
Yes.
Everything you've just said, you can completely apply to Instagram and you're golden.
Yeah. Interesting. Let's switch gears a little bit. I'm a business. Okay. I'm 3 years into a business. I sell insurance. No, we'll do. But I sell whatever. I'm 3 years into a business. I have a couple of employees now. Things are going well. I'm ready to take the leap and start digital marketing. I know digital marketing is like a broad topic, but let's talk about content creation.
Okay.
How do I get started? What should I do? I hire Melanie to be our consultant. What are you telling me? And my budget is $50,000 a year. No, let's make it more realistic. It's $30,000 a year. Okay.
So are you asking from my perspective or the perspective of they're doing it alone?
Let's start with your perspective.
Okay. So for me, the first thing I want to know is, let's say for you, what sets you apart in the insurance game? What sets you apart from another company? I want to know, like, what basically, what makes you you? What makes you different?
Are you asking me right now?
Sure. You want to answer?
Sure. Okay,
let's do it. We'll do a real life example.
Okay, cool. So what makes KBD different? We try, it is a commodity at the end of the day. We try our best to make the process simple and to be there and offer guidance when you're confused about the process of making a claim.
Perfect. Love this. So you want to think about the person that speaks to. Who are they? You could create like a whole avatar around them. So are they male, female? How old are they? What kind of questions are they asking? What are they worried about? What keeps them up at night? All of these like little questions about the type of person that you want to attract, that is the content that you want to start putting out, is answers to those questions. So I was saying before that the 3 types of content that do really well are educational, entertaining, and inspirational. So for you guys, it's more educational. So the phone call that you had the other day, I think I listened to like a brief second of it on Instagram. But that's actually great because that gives people a real life example. And the reason why people love social media is because they just want to be seen. So if you're giving them an example of something that they could totally see themselves coming into, like a flood is a great example because, I mean, it's current. That kind of builds this connection, this immediate connection with you. And they're like, who is this person? Where does he work? I want to be on the phone with him. I want to work together. So it's really just about creating connections with people. And I think a great way to do that is to find ways to help them feel seen. And you can do that by kind of creating content that answers a lot of their questions. So things I was saying, like things that keep them up at night, like, oh my God, what if we have a fire? You know, like, what do I do with my documents? Can I put them somewhere safer? So it's like getting into their heads about the questions they have and then creating content around that.
The part that I struggle with the most is my concern with the marketing that we put out now is it does it consistently deliver the same message? And I don't think it does. And I think I'm saying this because I think a lot of other companies can relate to this. It's like, should I be running a bigger marketing campaign, because like one thing about marketing is like you have to have what's the why of the company. So it starts from like, why does your company exist? What's your value add? What's your value proposition? And then your marketing should basically reflect that. That's the message you're trying to deliver. But like where I get confused sometimes is because we have like different avenues. We have like this podcast here, which just gets clips. We have the content we produce there. And then my concern sometimes is that people, and I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, if people call just because it's me or if they're calling the company. I think it's because it's me.
There's nothing wrong with that. I think that's actually great.
Why?
Like you think
I'm not trying to pump my tires, by the way. I'm just like thinking out loud.
Okay, wait. So just repeat. So you think that people are calling the company to work with you? Is that what you're saying? Because they're seeing your face and...
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think so. And the reason I say this is because I get a lot of people reach out to me, like a lot. I'm really not trying. I'm getting uncomfortable now because I feel like I'm pumping my tires.
No, but this is actually great. This is a perfect example of how great content creation can be for a company.
It works.
It does work. And even better is when someone can put a face to a brand, because there's worse, but there's nothing worse than having a company where there's no face.
Like a faceless corporation or something.
Yeah. Because who wants to buy from a faceless corporation? They'd rather connect with somebody, and that somebody is you. So with M, for example, I'm always putting people in videos, you know, and Justin's like, I don't want to necessarily be on
he's
videos, you know.
On videos, hey?
He's actually great. I'm trying to really pump his tires so he'll do more of it, because he's so funny. He's so entertaining.
He's eccentric.
Yeah, and I really feel like he would be an amazing face to the company. I think he would really bring a lot of like fun factor in there.
He would. I've been trying to get him on the podcast for... He
should do it, Justin. If you're listening,
I've asked him every single time I see him. I ask him. He's like, yeah. It's like, yeah, I'll one day.
But yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with having a face to a brand. I think it's actually great. I think it really provides people with that trust factor. Because insurance is like, one company to another, what's the difference?
Yeah. If I'm an end consumer, that's what I'm thinking. What's the difference? Desjardins, Intact, Bel Air, whatever.
Right.
Like,
but if they see you and you're delivering all this free information for people, they're like, hey, this is a great guy. You know, he's given me like so much free information over the last year. Maybe I should switch. Maybe I should just call him.
So a tip for, back to the original question, for someone with a $30,000 budget or whatever that budget might be, smaller budget, you would say, if they're comfortable with it, and they're good in front of cameras or whatever, that to make themselves as the face of the business.
Yes, please.
Just so that people can actually have a connection.
Yeah. So if you're not working with a content creator, and you're doing it yourself, just you show up. Like, you make your face to the brand. If you have a content creator working for you full time, have them be the face of the brand.
And there's pros and cons to that, because the pro would be, well, it's a content creator. They're obviously comfortable in front of the camera. The con would be, if they leave or something happens, who's the face of the business now? You just switch over, whoever the next person's going to be. And maybe like one of the... Is that easy to do? I think if you give it context. So if your next person is coming in, they're like, hey guys, I'm like the new social media manager. Like, nice to meet you guys. Yeah. Let me know if there's anything, you guys want to see, if you've questions, whatever. I think like there's a lot to be said about transparency. I think transparency is the best thing for a company. But yeah, if you have a content creator that's been with you for 2 years, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, they're on to another job, then whoever comes into that position, I think it's really important for them to know that this is kind of what we're doing here. Like, you're going to become like the face of this brand. Like, you're going to be in a lot of the videos, and, hope you're like, you kind of need to be comfortable with that. So we're talking about, I guess you could say, the do's of a company, do's and don'ts. What are the don'ts? What are the things that, as a company, I should stay away from when it comes to content creation, or even marketing and delivering a message, a value proposition as a whole? I think one would be,
I mean, I really enjoy seeing what other people are doing. So if I'm in insurance, I would love to see what other people in insurance are doing. But in the end, the most important thing is that you're creating your own strategy. Like you have blinders on and you're doing your thing.
Authenticity.
Yeah.
Like be true to yourself. Whatever you want to do.
Try not to compare. Try and just stay in your lane and do your thing. And don't complicate it. Just try and make it simple.
And what about if that strategy offends a segment of the demographic that you're trying to target? Because the reason I'm asking this question, you can't make everybody happy. And I've seen advice from, I guess I don't want to call them content creators, but let's call them marketers. Mm-hmm. And it's like, hey, you should always be apolitical. Don't say that, don't get into politics. You're not selling politics. Okay, fine, that makes sense. But then there's another segment of the population that just says, look, be authentic. You might piss off, example, 20%, but the other 80% or the other 30%, whatever percent actually really likes it. They're going to go, wow, not a lot of people say that. They're even more likely to buy from you because you have the same point of view on subject X. So it's like, because it's like, what's the saying? It's like companies that stand for nothing. No, what is it? People that stand for nothing. I don't remember the saying. But it's basically like you never offer a point of view on anything. Right. So it's like you're like, oh my God, this is just boring. It's kind of like podcasts. Any single time you're going to see a good podcast, people have an opinion. People want to hear your opinion. Mm-hmm. They don't want to hear just like the politically correct answer. You're always down the middle. They want you to take a stance on certain things. Yeah. So what would you say to someone who's trying to draw in an audience? Should you try and make everyone happy, or should you be okay with pissing off some people, but there's another segment that really like you and they're super loyal to you?
I think if you're going to try and make everyone happy, you're going to be miserable and it's not going to work the way you want it to work. Okay. So I think the great thing about social media is really finding your village. It's like finding your community, your people. Okay. I think you will definitely upset people no matter what you say. Even if you're trying to be politically correct, you're always going to upset somebody. So I think the most important thing is, just stay true to who you are. Everyone has opinions. You don't have to be rude about it. You can be respectful, but you can say this is who I am. This is what I stand for. These are my values. And I think through that, you will have the people that are upset, but you'll also have the people that are like, heck yeah, like I totally get that. Like you get a follow. I want more of your stuff.
I was just reading this right now. I haven't even read this yet, by the way. I think actually, you know what?
We really just took this.
This has been a great flow. This has been great. And interesting enough, as I'm looking down at the topics that are here, we've kind of naturally, organically covered most of these topics.
Yeah, we did actually.
That's a sign of a good conversation.
Hey, we like that.
So on the topic that we were just talking about, how to deal with mean or hateful comments. Because sometimes, I'm sure you get a lot of them. My brother, YouTuber as well, and he deals with this on, I wouldn't say a regular basis, but he gets them. And he started doing this thing where, I don't know why, I find it kind of funny. So someone will post, your shit, whatever the hell it is, and he'll respond, go to your room. Which has nothing to do with anything. But, he has fun with it. And
I love that.
Yeah. So how do you deal with hateful comments or
Okay.
mean
Well,
comments?
from a highly sensitive person, hateful comments, they hurt. I mean, regardless of who you speak to, even if someone's you just brush them off. I think what's really worked for me in the past is really just to kill them with kindness. Because in the end, that doesn't take, it's putting out good energy when I need there to be good energy. So if they're saying something like, I think you're fat, for example, or I absolutely hate this piece of content.
Yeah. Says the guy sitting on his couch who probably hasn't done anything all day, keyboard warrior.
And I would just write back you're entitled to your opinion. Have a great day.
Yeah.
Because to me, I don't want to have more of a conversation with this person. Yeah. This person's obviously miserable and coming for me because they're having a terrible day. So for me, the best thing I could do is just put goodness out and then just let it go. Because if I put something more, like if I'm trying to hurt them back and I say, well, you're an asshole, then now I'm riled. Mm-hmm. And now I'm like looking for more of a fight. So if I'm just like trying to kill him with kindness, being like, sorry, you're having a shit day, you know, too bad. But that kind of allows me to let it go a lot faster than if I were to pick a fight with somebody.
But I want to focus in on the let it go part, because that's a lot easier said than done. Mm-hmm. So putting out kindness, that makes sense. And then kind of just trying to forget about it.
Kindness and compassion. So like I'm compassionate for this human being that is obviously, who's a complete asshole. And I'm really sorry that your life has led you here and you feel the need to take precious time to message me such a hateful thing.
Yeah.
For me, I have some level of compassion for that.
Yeah.
I've had terrible days. I've had days where I've looked at content and been like, oh, I want to so badly like put something on here just to make me feel better. So I can understand where that comes from. The things that I don't tolerate are things that are, really hateful, like really disgusting, like things that I'll like just delete. I'm like, you're just here to like plant things, and
I feel like sometimes it could even be a bot.
For sure. A lot of those around. Yeah. So in those cases, I'll just delete it. But if I feel this is like a real person and they're saying like, well, this type of content really offended me, the things that.
But how would your content offend someone? You're posting beautiful videos of.
It could honestly be like a story. It could have been something I said or how I said it, or I don't know. Like you can't make everyone happy. No. So I may have said something that someone took offense to or whatnot. And for me, sometimes depending on the person, like especially when it comes to political things, someone will write me and say, you know, I really felt like you should have said this, and I feel like you should have posted this instead. And those types of conversations I feel are more of an open door to be like, okay, tell me more. I'm actually curious. Like I want to know like your thoughts on this, because you've approached me in a way that is direct, but also not offensive. You know, like not so much hate. It's more like sometimes it's like in the form of a question, like, why didn't you do this? Like, why didn't you post about this specific thing that happened? And I'm like, okay,
like
well,
a social justice thing, or
yeah, like if there's something going on in the world and they're like, why aren't you posting about this or like whatever?
I find a publicly or a DM?
In a DM. So if you're coming to me like in a private conversation, I'm more than happy to have a conversation about it. But if you're posting something publicly,
like if someone said that publicly in the comments, it's like, easy buddy, relax on the virtue signaling. Like you're a great person. Sorry, I didn't post whatever of the social justice post du jour, all that kind of stuff. But it's like there was, I'm a dude, so I listen to Joe Rogan, and
I like Joe Rogan.
Yeah, I love Joe Rogan. He's a very curious human being, and one thing that he said was he never reads the comments. So my question for you is, and for the exact reasons we're talking about, it makes him he's like, I don't find it healthy. I don't like it. So he doesn't read the comments ever. And whenever someone comes on his podcast, he goes, don't read the comments. That's like mistake number one. Why do you read the comments? Do you read it because you're curious? Do you read it because it gives you feedback on what type of content you should be posting? Or are you reading the comments because you can't help yourself? Or are you like, why do you read the comments?
I think because I look at it like I want to build a community. So I like to know.
You're looking for feedback.
I want to know how people feel about it, if it makes them happy, if it makes them sad. I want to know those types of things. I remember when Mike had first launched Curbside Clean, which is a bin cleaning company.
Nice.
And Mike free plug. And Mike had said to me, can you help me with social? And I was like, yeah, heck yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
And so we posted the first video, and it went viral, like millions of views.
Damn, organically?
Yeah, and it was on TikTok. I don't know if we had even posted it on Instagram yet, but I was like, let's just go with TikTok for now and see how that goes. And so millions of views, and it was the story. So like if you get into storytelling on Instagram or TikTok, storytelling's great.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I agree.
Especially kind of your rags to riches story.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of the story I was telling, because we built that business during COVID. And then when things really started happening, we were slowly coming out of that.
Mm.
And people loved it and people hated it. People were like, this is the dumbest business I've ever seen. Who's going to pay for this? And Mike and I would sit up late at night and we would read these comments to each other. And I realized having a partner to share that with made it so much easier, because then we were like laughing it all off. We were like, oh God, this like person's probably at home, like on their couch writing these stupid things, like miserable
and
people.
And TikTok, in my experience at least, and I'm sure it's probably the same for you, TikTok, the comments, they're wild.
I mean, I have never seen anything like TikTok.
It's crazy.
On these viral videos. I mean, we would stay up and we wouldn't, at one point, we wouldn't have to say anything. Like we were months into content creation.
Yeah.
And so we'd post all these videos, and the videos, a lot of them were like before and afters of bins and stuff. And there was someone who had commented something like, I would never pay this amount of money to get my bins cleaned, and went off like a whole rant. And then even just 2 months into it, there were people under him replying, saying like, you are such an idiot, and like really going after them. And I'm like, Mike, have you seen this?
And it's great
this
for your
so
post.
Crazy.
It's people, so you end up, because the same things happen to myself as well. So you end up posting it and someone will comment on it. And then next thing you know, 2 people are having an argument in the comment section on your video, which only helps your video.
Right.
So you don't even have to respond. It's just like, it has a life of its own.
And at one point we laughed so hard that Mike actually commented back, thanks for the engagement.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but it's so true.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely
I think
true.
that's actually what TikTok does really well, is engagement.
Yes.
There's a lot more back and forth, I find, on TikTok than there is on Instagram. And I think that definitely helps engagement.
I find Instagram is more about aesthetics, and TikTok is, in my opinion, definitely more raw. But you have to be careful on TikTok. The algorithm is excellent. So if you watch a video or even 2 videos on the same topic, same subject consecutively, like the next
that's it. You're
hour
on that feed.
While you're doom scrolling is going to be all that.
Yeah.
It's got to be careful what you watch. Because like, even I feel like the like button doesn't even make a difference. If you watch the whole video, it's like, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I know what
you've given me the time.
Yes. What was I going to say earlier? But you ever see those videos where there's like some guy, he's making a mockery of all the keyboard warriors and stuff. So he's sitting down on the couch, he's got his shirt off, he's fat, he's out of shape, he's eating chips, and he's watching like Olympic divers, and one of them makes like a little splash. He's just like, unbelievable.
Oh my God.
Like, you know what I mean?
Pretty much sums it up.
Yeah, exactly. And he's just kind of like, here, there's this person dedicated their life, trained every single day. They're way better at it than you'll ever be in your life, and you're going to make a comment at it. So that's kind of what the comments are like. And I try my best to like not read anything.
Before I forget, we were talking about, if you were a business owner, what would you tell them in terms of content creation?
Yeah.
If you can come up with a series of content. So let's say you're an interior designer and you're doing, like you have a gut project. Doing series content like that, where it's like you're taking them through almost like a TV show, that content does so well. So if you have a specific project that you're working on, you can say, I'm trying to think of maybe a good example, but I want to do a bedroom makeover. So my first video might be like, I absolutely hate the way my bedroom looks, so I'm going to be making it over. So welcome to Bedroom Makeover Part 1.
It's like kind of like Get Ready With Me or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, people do love consistency. This is why reality television does super well, is because people are constantly tuning into episodes. So series content, incredible. And if you can also do it with storytelling, even better.
So as a business, you have to come up with a story.
Like, let's say you were looking for a new office. You would be like office hunting. Like, welcome to Office Hunting Part 1. And then you would go into a building and you'd say, okay, this is not going to work. Like, we need X amount of bathrooms, and like, what the heck is this? Like, you have your voiceover commentary, and people like that because then they get invested. They're like, oh, new office? Okay, but like, what else are you going to look at? Like,
and you walk into an
curious.
office, yeah, it's like, oh yeah, that office sucks.
Yeah.
don't get that office. And then
people like to be entertained. They like to follow stories.
Have you seen the Milk Mobs?
Yes, love the Milk Mobs. They do great marketing.
A friend of mine who has worked with them said, because the older sister, Georgia, I think? No, not Georgia. Who's the older sister? Strawberry Milk Mob?
Is it Strawberry?
I think so. Great content.
I love
She's
her.
Amazing. She's pretty. She's bubbly. She's got like, good for her.
Yep.
This person in particular said she's a nightmare to deal with.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Just like a rich girl, kind of.
I mean, it's funny because the amount of people that I have actually met in person, it's such a compliment for them to say, and it's so weird, but it's a real compliment for people to say, you're exactly who you are online. I always loved getting that comment from people. And recently I was doing a property reel for M, and beautiful, incredible home. And the owner, I introduced myself, and she's like, oh, it's really nice to meet you. And then we went in the house, and she starts showing me around, and she's like, actually, I'm sorry I'm super awkward, but I know exactly who you are. And I was like, oh, amazing.
She was fangirling over you.
Thank you. And she's like, no, like, you're so sweet, and you're so kind, and like, you're exactly like who you are online. And I'm like, thank you.
How did that make you feel?
I think it's the ultimate compliment, because it means that I'm really showing up as me. Like, I'm not showing up any differently. I think if someone had said to me, I mean, not that they would say this to my face, but if they said, wow, like, you're a real pain in the ass in person, I'd be like, oh God, okay, thank you.
But it's a sign that your content is authentic.
Yes. And that's all I want, is to make content that feels truest to me.
Here's a question I just thought of. What percentage of creators would you say are inauthentic in your experience?
I don't know. That's a really hard question to ask, because that would require me to actually know who they are. There have been times where I have met people in person and said to myself, they definitely have a different persona. Like, they put something on for online.
For the cameras, yeah.
Which is not uncommon. I think there's actually something kind of great about kind of having that separation, where it's like, this is the way I show up, and this is the way that I am privately.
It's like a character.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think I've ever been like super disappointed about meeting somebody in person.
That's good.
I think. I can't, I mean, trying to think back, but I don't think I've ever been really disappointed.
Like, have you ever gone to like these influencer meetups? Do those exist?
Yeah, so I've been to, I used to go to so many PR events, like companies that are doing, a new campaign, or they're promoting like a new product, stuff like that. Yeah.
And do you guys go to, I guess, to synergize your audience? So it's like you have your audience there, another content creator has their audience, you make a piece of content together, and then
couple of things. You could do that.
Okay.
I think it's also a great way to just network, to just meet more people in the industry. And then there's also the brand side of things. You show up because you like the brand, you want to have some kind of relationship with them.
I'm getting confused though when you're saying to meet the brand. So are you referring to like the content creator, or the content creator who's making content on behalf of a brand / company?
So if a company is inviting you, let's say like a marketing company is inviting you to the launch of, I don't know, give me the name of some kind of brand. I'm trying to think of a
Coca-Cola.
Okay, great. So Coca-Cola puts on this PR event, and they're like, hey, the marketing company messages you saying, hey, we want you to come to this event that we're putting on. We're launching this new drink.
Okay.
And you're like, heck yeah, I'm there.
Okay.
So you show up to this event. You may or may not have a +1.
Okay.
And there are all kinds of people that you've probably seen online. So whether they're content creators or people from the press or whatnot. And so it's a great opportunity to create content with somebody else, maybe like a quick TikTok or like a piece of content. But the main reason you're probably showing up there is because you want to create or maintain the relationship with the brand. So for you, if you're a huge fan of Coca-Cola, you know, you have reps that are there. Like you have people that work for the company that you could chat to, that you could say, hey, like would love to explore maybe like a collaboration or some kind of partnership with you. So it's really a good time to network with whatever brand you're showing up for.
Interesting. And that just made me think of, so you're meeting up these content creators. Who would you say is the content creator / influencer that you look up to the most?
Man, I'm sure there's quite a few. I mean, I was just talking about Alex Earl the other day. I don't know if you've ever come across Alex Earl's content. I really like Alex for multiple reasons.
She's getting canceled right now.
Is she?
Yeah.
Everyone gets canceled at some point.
They found some, she'll come back from it. It's like on Twitter. This is the thing with these people, man. Like they literally try and tear you down. And there was some stuff from Twitter. This is back in 2014.
Yeah.
She was like in her teenage years. She shouldn't have said it, but she said it. And it was completely taken out of context. So she wrote the N-bomb on Twitter, but not in the way like, hey, you like,
yeah.
It was kind of like when people say like, ma,
yeah,
whatever. Shem, you could say it, but two white people talking about it. No, but it's like, so should she have written it? No, she shouldn't have. But it wasn't like attacking someone. And so they're going after her now for saying that. It's like the poor girl, she's 23 years old. And I agree with you that I think she does a really good job creating content. I like her. I think she's cool. So they're trying to cancel her. I'm sure she'll make it through. But sorry to rain on your parade. What do you like about her? Because I do think she has...
On the quick note about cancel culture.
Yeah.
So the problem I have with cancel culture is that when it's a tweet that you wrote like 10 years ago, you were a completely different person 10 years ago.
Yes.
So there's kind of this lack of, you can't make mistakes. But like if you're...
Which everybody does.
Right. And I feel like there has to be some kind of like leeway of, yes, we're all human. We all make mistakes. Like, would you like for me to go through the diary that you wrote like 20 years ago? Like talking about like find something, the horrible things that you said?
Yeah, you can find something on anybody.
Yeah.
Anybody.
Yeah.
Everyone's done. We're human. We're going to make mistakes.
I think it's great when I think it's necessary for people obviously to take responsibility for what they've said. What you put out online, like it's there forever.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's also like, okay, I made a huge mistake and I'm really sorry, but let's consider that was also 10 years ago when I was, young and silly, and let's move on. I
find it also though too, it's like people, a bunch of dweebs, they're losers. I think they feel like it empowers them. It gives them power over you. Because like, oh, look what I found on you. You're a bad person. Mm-hmm. I'm such a good person. You better apologize. And you better apologize right now, or we're going to continue to cancel you. Mm-hmm. And I'm happy to see in society, at least through my lens, I think that there's the pendulum swinging the other way, where people are kind of fed up with cancel culture. And they're like, oh my God, I don't care. Mm-hmm.
We all have lives, like
yes, which is nice to see. We don't have the energy for this. It's not healthy, this cancel culture, not mm-hmm. healthy at all. So I'm happy to see on social media platforms that it's kind of dying down. Yeah. And let's take Joe Rogan again as an example. Mm-hmm. When they tried to cancel him, what ended up happening is his podcast blew up. It was already big, but he was even saying, so when CNN came after him, and he was dropping N-bombs, but again, taken completely out of context. And he's just like, look, I shouldn't have said it. Mm-hmm. This was a long time ago. But the way they twisted the content made it seem it was just taken completely out of context. Yeah. And I guess sparked the curiosity of a lot of people. And he's like, hey, thanks, CNN, because it blew my podcast up even more. So.
I mean, no bad press is, or what is it?
There's no
such thing as bad press.
Yeah.
Which is kind of true. So, I mean, if you really want to hurt somebody, Weinstein. Don't talk about it. Yeah. I mean, there are really unforgivable things. Like there's a massive difference. But I think when it comes to things that, a girl has said 10 years ago, I don't think that necessarily has to completely cancel her. I think there's a moment of like, okay, yeah, she took responsibility. She shouldn't have said it. Like,
let's move on.
She's apologized. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Bigger and better things.
I totally agree. Mel, because the batteries are dying out, because this is our second podcast of the day, I really enjoyed this. We
Same.
had one this morning. I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Me too.
I'd love to have you back on.
Okay, let's do it. Part 2.
So, guys, we actually just changed the name too.
Okay.
To the KBD podcast. We got all because the freemium, it was kind of like a nothing name. I don't know why I came up with freemium. Actually, I do know why, because I was just looking for names that no one had.
Okay.
Because every name, there's 2 million podcasts. Every single podcast name was already taken, so I came up with freemium.
Okay.
But then we started the podcast because obviously to kind of like get KBD and the podcast to merge or synergize with each other, if you will. So we just changed it up. So this is actually is this the second KBD? Sorry.
Hey,
you're not the first. The first
it.
was this morning, but you're the second
I'll take it.
guest for the KBD podcast. So, ladies and gentlemen, Melanie Vandersluis. What's your IG handle?
It's M Vandersluis. So that's MVANDERSLUIS.
That's a tongue twister.
I know. It's a Dutch last name, so I'm always having to spell it out.
I really appreciate your time, and we'll have you back on soon.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.